What's the deal, YouTube? It's your boy Next Gen 720, and I'm back with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, the PS4 has won another month of MPDs. Kudos. But from now on this channel here, I am removing myself from quote unquote this console war till it becomes fun and interesting to me. And just hear me out. Oh, you're just saying that because the Xbox One is losing? No. That doesn't. Listen, let me tell you one thing. What motivates me? It's not about sales. It's not about power. Because if it was all about power, I would prefer to play on a PC. Okay, and I can afford. I will play on PC. If it was about sales, I would prefer the PlayStation 4. It's not what motivates me. I'm 37 years old. I've been gaming for way longer than the most of you. Some of you guys' first consoles may have been the 360 and the PS3. May have been the PS2 or the GameCube or the original Xbox. My first console was the NES. So like I said, I've been around in these schoolyards debating consoles for a very, very long time. But what makes a console race, a console war, to me, I thought was fun, was we're talking about who has the better games. Or now, this day and age, what console has the better features. Now, every month is granted, like I said, the Xbox One probably will never catch the PS4 in sales. Maybe here in North America, when Halo comes out, because they're down by less than 1 million, and they're being really aggressive this Black Friday. $2.99 Xbox One with any extra game you want, Fallout 4, whatever you want, and Tomb Raider with your Fallout 4, any extra controller. So you get an Xbox One for $2.99, 2 free games, 1 free game of your choice, and the extra controller for $2.99, and that's very, very aggressive. So most likely they're going to win November and December. Kudos. And they may even pull even with here in North America. I'm going to talk about sales and perception in this video, you know what I mean? But I shouldn't even mention that yet. But anyways, I was saying, to me, that's what's fun. Because granted, if I were you guys, you Sony fans, what is Sony doing with the profit? What they're doing with their play? Because it's still one company. And right now, the PlayStation is what's driving Sony. But they're taking the PlayStation money and helping other bleeding areas in Sony. Because you guys are supposedly selling all these consoles. Where are your AAA games? You understand what I'm saying? That's the issue. That's the issue you guys have with the original, with the Xbox 360 last generation. You're leading the sales, but where are the exclusives? You understand what I'm saying? I'm just going by you Sony fans loud because you guys like to have it both ways. So I'm asking you guys, if I were you Sony fans, honestly, I would be upset. Now, I see my Twitter timeline. Forza didn't make the charts. But you've never have seen, where's your video at, Next Gen? You've never seen me done a video about whatever Sony game not charting. Godzilla, One Piece Blood, and all these, Dragon Quest, end of the day. Because first of all, a lot of Xbox fans, and even PlayStation fans, buy their games digitally this generation, which is not accounted for in the NPD. It's not. A lot of people say, instead of me going out in the cold, let me, pay for it now. Let it download to my system, and at 12 o'clock, 11:58 or so, I'll be playing it sometime a little earlier on my console because I bought it digitally. That's what more than half of this generation is doing. That's why you hear GameStop, because they're starting to feel it now, GameStop saying that they no longer will accept consoles from Microsoft or Sony with digital consoles, with digital codes for games. They have to be a retail disc, you know what I mean? That's why you hear GameStop still trying to find, to stay in the, in the loop here. But hear me out. So if I was you Sony fans, I would be all jumping up and down on Sony, like, hey, where are our AAA games? Because again, you guys like to brag about these long list of games, and again, you guys don't go out and buy them. You know what I mean? Now, if you were talking about AA's and indies and, the beast, we're talking about blockbuster AAA games. And the Xbox One has more. That cannot be debated. I don't care how you spin it. We're talking about big budget AAA games. Hear me out. So again, like I said, that's where I'm at with this generation. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, unlike you, besides of me owning the Xbox One or whatever, I also own a PlayStation 4. And at the end of the day, I am a gamer. I'm saying some of you guys are so fucked up in the head. And if I really cared that much about Sony winning this generation, I wouldn't have bought a PlayStation 4. That's not what motivates me. You know what I mean? If I really, some of you guys think, you know what, I don't want Microsoft to win. I'm like, I do want to play Quantum Break, but if I buy an Xbox One, it goes according. I've heard, listen, this is not me making this shit up. I read some of you comments, some of you guys inbox me. I'm looking at this like this is some of the dumbest shit in the world. I would buy an Xbox One, but I don't want them to win the MP. Like, what the fuck what are you winning? I mean, honestly, I understand, don't get me wrong, I get it. I'm a fanboy myself. And a lot of, we're all fanboys. We sit talk about the same shit. And we root for these consoles like our favorite sports team. I get it. But at the end of the day, what we all share in our common DNA, we're all gamers. Great, Sony is doing well. I get it. But when is that going to translate in them giving me a God of War 4? A new Gran Turismo 7, 8, whatever number, if you're into Gran Turismo. Silent, Parappa. Look, games like that when Sony was great. Now, if you don't think, there will be no more great IPs like that from Sony. If you think I'm bullshit, go back to the article they did, I think it was on DualShockers or something, when Jack Tritton said the days of them pumping out IPs, they're not doing that anymore. They release 7 games, 10 games, only 3 of them make money. They're not doing that anymore. Mark Cerny talked about it. If she said, AAAs are overrated. You know what I mean? Just listen to where I'm going here with this. So, like I said, we're on my channel going forward. Until it gets back fun. I don't want to talk about sales. Because, it's not, again, that because the Xbox One is, but I am one. You've been wanting to debate me about games. This generation, like I said before, the Xbox One probably will never catch up because the PS4 is this generation's iPod. It's the must-have item, for, gamers, which is cool. But what does that how does that help me? How does it help you? Is you going to give me more AAA? Because like I said before, Sony is in a weird predicament. They're trying to spend as little money as possible and make as much money as possible. You know what I mean? Look at it. If you don't believe me, I bullshit you not. Look at Shenmue 3. They're back out doing a Kickstarter. You guys Sony has a gem in their back pocket. And they refuse to get behind that game and fund it the way it should be. Honestly. Even with Street Fighter 4, Sony's not really back in the game like you think they're back in the game. Because there are less characters. Yeah, I read an article from Capcom. It's one of them small, insecure sites or something. But anyway, they were talking about, along those lines. Hold on. I'll make a great cup of coffee. And at the end of the day, I do get it. It's business. You know what I mean? But let's go on to the talk about, Sony being the worldwide leader. I think the PS4 is out in 100 countries or something like that. The Xbox One is only out in 40. Just hear me out. So we're talking about worldwide sales. So the reasons and the differences between Microsoft and Sony will put, and I'm just using this literally, okay? I believe the country was Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't, please forgive me. I'm gonna take a small country like Qatar, very wealthy. I'm not saying it's true, but this is what I'm saying is the truth. Sony will release the PS4. They will ship it there. They will import it there. You can import it, whatever the case may be, for very expensive. But those gamers will not have access to online, the store, everything that we enjoy here in the States or in the UK. They won't have any of that. I did a video about that about 2 years ago, and I think I got into it with the editor from Game Informer, and he asked me, where did I find this out at? How do I know? And I gave him the link, and he said he was going to do the media is so biased. He said he was going to do an article on his damn self, you know what I mean? And he didn't, because it was, I didn't know this at the time. It was a PlayStation. It was some PlayStation gamers. I believe the country was Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. They were tired of. They were Sony fans or PlayStation fans, whatever. But they didn't even know that PlayStation had a store and this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? And they're like, hey, where's our stuff at? And Sony didn't have an answer for them to that. So I did a video on it. You know what I mean? That's the difference between Microsoft and Sony. Because when Sony, the Xbox rolls out Microsoft rolls out their console in these sovereign territories, just joking, the console is fully supported. They have access to the online, everything that we enjoy here in the States and the UK. Now, some places may have more content, you know what I mean? But they have the basic shit. And then Sony put these consoles in a lot of these small countries and territories. They don't even have access to online. I bullshit you not. I bullshit you not. You know what I mean? So all that's just pumping out to all these different. It's the difference between Microsoft and Sony. You know what I mean? Trust me. When it comes to a company and their market value, Microsoft can eat up Sony, buy it 4 or 5 times over. Just think about what I'm saying here, okay? And it's the truth. It's not that Sony is out hustling Microsoft. They're not. But like I said before, their perception is everything. So they give you this worldwide number. But when you think about it, they put these console out in these smaller territories and they don't have access to anything. Boot up, here, play your game. That's it. I bullshit you not. And that blew my mind. So I started reading some of, I go to Google Translate, started reading some of the complaints, and people were pissed off about that. Hey, I paid 1,800 pesos, or I'm just for shits and giggles. But, and they didn't have access to the basic shit. They wanted to play their FIFA, their own online, and they couldn't do that. You know what I mean? So that's why Microsoft are not out in a lot of these countries, because it probably doesn't make dollar sense, because, hey, if we put our console there, we're going to have to get online, we're going to get the databases and stuff. We don't have enough customers there. I get it. Sony doesn't care. They're just going to put their shit out there, and it's fine. You're not going to have online. You don't need it. Talk to them, comes back. Maybe do it when you get about 100,000 more gamers or something. You know what I mean? This is their model. Their model. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I'm not going to be too long with this. I'm already at 12 minutes. But what I'm trying to say is the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? You Sony gamers, it's your job now to be more vocal. Vote with your dollar. Say, you know what, Sony, enough of the bullshit. Where are our AAA games? Regardless of what console you wave the flag for, it doesn't matter at this point in time. It doesn't. Where are the games? I told you guys before, Sony was leaning more on third party and indies and multiplats to sell their console. If you're fine with not having your God of War, let's put 3 years in or whatever the fuck, or your, I don't even know, you take a game like The Order 18, that was supposed to have been a trilogy, no more. This honestly, I know I'm not a PlayStation dude, but to me, I don't care for Bloodborne. That's not my type of thing. But kudos if you like Bloodborne. You know what I mean? I don't get it. And maybe it's just not for me to get it. But this console racing war, to me, at this point, it's getting a little redundant. It is. If you want to debate me about games and features, fine, I'm your man. I'm taking some. Go back to do my little debates, make them a little smart. Like I said, I got about 3 months left until this flag is removed, and I'm taking on all newcomers. Like I said, I like to do stuff, live debates. Until then, but don't leave any more comments. Telling me, and I don't like say quote unquote expose stuff. I'm sure what I'm gonna do. I make sure I go read some of your comments on the air during the video. Some of this shit I can't make up in my inbox. I swear to God. Quantum Break looks good, but they don't want to buy an Xbox One because they don't want Microsoft to win the NPD for that month. Like, really? This is your boy Next Gen 720, man, and I know it's all over the world in this video here. But there's a lot, like I said, this is one of these one of my long sit-down videos because I don't get it, man. And I'm removing myself from this console race. Until we get back to talking about games and the features, then fine, I'm your man. But all this, that doesn't matter to me. It doesn't, because if it did, like I said, I would play on PC. I would be a PC prime a gamer, which has the largest install base, you know what I mean? But really going to talk about sales. No, it is what it is. But it's your boy Next Gen 720. This Black Friday, if you're waiting to get an Xbox One, $299, 2 free games, and the extra controller, any free game of your choice. Fallout, whatever, bang bang.